With every start, we are born again.
Welcome to this episode of the Becoming a Fulfillionaire show. Today's guest is Kevin Crenshaw, who is the founder and owner of The Heart Gang and has also created a whole litany of other online products and is a coach for people wanting to live with a more open heart. And I think today's episode is going to be really epic and special. Kevin and I get along really well. We don't know each other that well, so I'm going to be able to go into a very deep exploration of his experiences, his psyche, and I would venture to say this is going to be a very open-hearted episode because of where I come from and where he comes from. And I'm just going to encourage and challenge us both to just go as deep as we need to go and be as vulnerable as we need to be to pull out all the genius to help everybody live a more open-hearted life. Kevin, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So first question, on the preamble getting into this, you did something that I see entrepreneurs do very little of, but I've been seeing it more and more. And we were also talking about there's kind of an awakening happening every generation, right? And the awakening happening now is that people are able to consider living through their heart and a heartful life, right? Where I don't think that was an option 40 years ago, or if it was, it meant something very different. It meant like living for your family and like living to, at least as men, right? Living to provide like a paycheck and a good life for your children and stuff. So you said something where I asked you a question and I was like, well, what does that exactly mean? Like, what is the Heart Gang? And the first thing that came out of your mouth was, you know, I'm not really sure. I'm still in exploration of that. And it takes a ton of humility and a ton of experiences to get to the point where you're comfortable saying that to someone.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me what that means to you.
What I don't know means, or the Heart Gang?
The whole journey of getting to the point where you can comfortably say, I don't know, with a smile.
Dude.
And why would the viewers be interested in hearing this story? Like, what can it provide them to know about life with being comfortable saying, I don't know? Like, there's probably some people watching where it's very uncomfortable to admit that you don't know things sometimes.
Especially when you're the quote unquote expert, or it's your own company, or it's the thing. Ironically, I want to say I don't know. But if you know,
what was the most humbling experience of your life? How about we go there? Humbling
experience was in relationships, man. Knowing when I fucked up, and here I am, the heart guy, fucking up, and my dharma has a short leash in that way. And anyway, if you're walking a certain dharma, you sign up for a certain assignment, whether it's clean oceans or helping people in their love life. You know, if you have clean oceans, you're going to be a lot more eco-friendly in your purchases and mindful with that type of stuff, right? Whatever that thing is to better humanity. And so that just happens to be mine. But I mean, I know I do what I do because I fucked up so much. I know what not to do. I think it's Anthony DeMello talks about you can't define love. You can define what love isn't. But the more you try to define it, the further you get.
Wow. I have a ton of questions. Already, I like it. And stop me if I'm ever interrupting too much, because I have a lot. I'm going to have a lot of questions.
Let's roll.
Yeah. What is love not?
Yeah.
If you were to rattle off like just some things off the top of your head, like what is love not?
No, love is not selfish. Love does not envy. Love does not boast. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. Love is patient. Love is kind. Right? We know that if you grew up in the Bible Belt like I did, you know that verse from 2 Corinthians something. I think that's pretty on the money. You know, I also, before we started the intro, I said hurt versus heart. And you were like, whoa, what? Where are we coming from? Are we coming from our hurt, which is a lot of people say our ego, that place inside of us, that our hurt self that's out to get? Or are we out to give? Is it of expression, or is it of survival? You can think of it that way. A lot of my work sees personal development or spirituality through the lens of the human body. So we can also look at that as, are you regulated in your nervous system, or are you dysregulated? Are you taking action from a dysregulated state when it's not appropriate? Or are you regulated, you can say calm, cool, collected, grounded, and coming from that place?
So what I'm taking away from that as a note to myself is
Yeah.
to check in if I'm coming from hurt or heart. If I'm unclear logically, I can say, like, does my body feel tight right now? Do I feel, am I breathing
And, you know,
large?
it could also just be something as simple as, what would love do? What's the most loving thing for all parties involved right now?
Okay. How do I define...
So,
like, how do I define that? Because you can say, like, what would the most loving thing be?
And then somebody has a skewed...
all parties.
Because if somebody has a skewed view of love, because that's a big thing. I mean, a lot of my courses help people redefine it because their idea of love is codependency or people pleasing or whatever, right? So, and it's because of media and cultural conditioning, saying that I need to sacrifice myself and what makes me happy to make you happy because I love you so much. So I'm going to be unhappy so you can be happy. What the fuck? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, but that's...
Is there like a Disney reference we
100%.
Which one would
any
you
of
use?
them. Any of them, literally
Let's
any of them.
take one and just tell that story real quick. So let's take Beauty and the Beast as an example, right? If we walk through the story of like the Beast being up in the castle and Belle being the girl from the village, and she goes up to the castle, right? And then gets trapped in the castle. So she falls in love with her captor and then leaves, and then he can only be rescued by her.
Yeah.
Right? Culturally, like, what does this say to like kids and teenagers?
It says to young girls that the toxic, unsafe person, you can change him. Yeah.
Ouch.
And then there's also other maybe non-Disney movies of, you know, a guy and a girl are living their life. They literally bump into each other, and the guy chases the girl. She says, no, 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 no. All of a sudden changes her mind. So that induces in the male psyche watching that. I just got to keep going. I got to do more, show up more so that I can win her over. I'm not enough as I am. I got to perform and show up.
Wow. Okay.
We can pick any movie and we can dissect the love story of it and go, that's twisted. So, you know, how is it twisted? Because some people might be like, well, that's just what love is, and it's been my experience. So your experience of love might be different than your definition of love.
So starting with the women can heal or save toxic men, in your experience of teaching this to people and working through this with people, what do you move them towards? What is a more empowering methodology? Or
you taught me that we're not more intelligent than the body. The body is very intelligent. And so for me to come in and try to be more intelligent than it, like, you know, the things we talked about, it's kind of arrogant, ignorant. Wow, get over yourself. Like, what the hell? I think the same thing with love. I question it, you know, because that might be true. There's probably a love story out there where the girl like literally changed that guy's life, and it was the thing that ruptured that wall in his heart, and he opened his heart and changed his life, and now they're together, and it's like, holy fuck, that's inspiring. That can still happen. Just not for everybody. Everybody has a unique love story. I've interviewed a few people who have been married or together for 30 plus years and still madly, passionately in love, like on their honeymoon phase. And they've gone through some shit.
So it wasn't always the honeymoon phase, but they tend to revolve back to it.
And every story is different. There was some that it was like they were friends for forever, and then, oh wait, there's something here. Love at first sight. The toxic chase, running away thing. Like, there's not one story. There's not one ideal. It's just, you know, is it healthy? Are you fulfilled by your pattern in love? If you're seeing a pattern of which is your partner, the dojo for spirituality is intimate relationships, in my opinion. The best, because what more could you make you feel so fucking alive or dead inside than your intimate partner? Most of the time, right? And so that's where I go to do the work, the inner work, the shadow work, the mirror work, seeing not them as a reflection of me, because a lot of people would say like, oh, they're a narcissist, so I'm a narcissist. No. What does it say about you that you have a pattern of being with them? What then, where's the reflection and seeing yourself in that pattern? So anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
I mean, I love that. I love where you're going.
I could go on and on about talking about love and relationship stuff, and
so could I ask you, like, what, just because I feel like I could learn a lot from it, what were your like early patterns, and how was that reflection process for you? So what did, because to hear the story will probably teach me a lot more.
I was a people pleaser.
Okay.
Literally up until December.
Like this recent December.
2 months ago, month and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. And I assume there's like levels to that, right?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
So early on you were a super people pleaser?
I grew up the shy nerd kid that ate Cheetos and shit food and was heavily medicated and played video games. Most people pleasers start as parent pleasers. So I wanted approval, and I would just, yeah, what do you want me to do? And would do anything and give anything to support because I wanted love. My first girlfriend was a setup from my mom and her mom, and we dated for 4 years, ended up proposing to her. And we were engaged for 6 months, and long story short, she broke it off, no explanation, after I came back from a trip, and I held a loaded pistol in my mouth and almost took my life because I had no sense of self, and she became that for me. That the only way I could feel love was through her. Couldn't feel it on my own, and this was college, so I was still like finding that, but it was a pretty dark time. Got out of that. Then the next 3 relationships I was in, it ended up in the same way, cheating on me. She cheated on me, found it out later, and I was like, what the fuck? Maybe it's me. I don't know what gave me that thought. I was into personal development and stuff, so maybe I was taking ownership, and I'm like, what about me is attracting this? Because it's not like they're cheaters. Like, they weren't the cheating type. This is the first time most of them did it. Wow, I'm codependent. I'm needy. I'm not okay on my own. So I started reading books about love and relationship and human dynamics and all this stuff. Even though I was a personal trainer, group fitness instructor, never read a book on it. I was always researching love. And again, long story short, helped a friend save his marriage. Holy shit, I'm good at this. Go on this trip.
Can we if it's okay, can we break down how you helped your friend save
He just was like, hey, I need some help. And I was like, yeah, like, cool. And I didn't know what he was asking help for. We go out to dinner at this like Mexican restaurant, and he was like, dude, I'm having some trouble, and I know that you're always reading those books, like, and
what
so
was like the trouble they were going through?
I honestly can't even rember.
Okay.
I just,
like, because you've had so many stories.
I think it was a miscommunication thing. It was like, well, she's asking this of you, and she doesn't know how to communicate it, and you're asking this of her, and you don't know how to communicate it. So like, I helped him see compassion and so the deeper need that wasn't being met, and then he just changed and showed up. And I if I remember correctly, that's something along the lines of that. But that's also most people, is miscommunication ruins a lot of good things.
Do you have any like silver bullets for that?
I said it last night, or night before last. We were hanging out with a bunch of friends, and so one of my friends was going on about how, I just hate when people share their accolades right when they meet you, or like whatever, like, yeah, I made this much money, and like in passing and kind of just flaunting their shit. And he's like, kind of disgusted. And I'm like, yeah, but in a lot of situations, I see people as first graders. That kid's just like, oh, dude, I found this new toy. I did this new thing. And you're like, awesome. Instead of being resentful or why are you doing that or whatever, like compassion. So that's one of the gold nuggets, is seeing the other person, even if they are coming from hurt, as a little kid. And it gives a lot of perspective to things. And now a lot of what I'm saying when I start talking about unconditional love, it doesn't mean, and there's a quote out there floating around, it doesn't mean unconditional acceptance of bad behavior. So you can unconditionally love somebody and still set your boundaries and still own your shit and create the orientation in life around that. So just because you love somebody unconditionally doesn't mean you have to keep sacrificing and stay in and all that stuff.
I have a big question for you.
Do you love yourself unconditionally? Because you need to own your fucking truth, your deeper truth. And for me, up until December, that was fucking hidden. I had a addiction to unsafety in relationships. I was the opposite of the Bell thing. With women, I'd be like, oh, you have a wall around your heart? I can open that. And I would get attracted to it. And this is all subconscious, right? Instead of not like, hey, this isn't healthy. I couldn't see it. I was attracted to it because it was familiar in my body with my relationship with my mother. The demands she had on me of like doing certain things, or the my chores and stuff like that. I remember it was, not only would I get the money from it, but she would be happy. And I wanted her to be happy. So I did the things, and then I would create partnerships where that happened too. And because it was a memory in my body that I was reliving for a chance of redemption. Oh, let me do it enough. Okay, now it's great. Now oh wow, okay, that's complete. But that usually doesn't happen. And so a lot of the work that I've done in the study of trauma around the nervous system is, one of my mentors mentioned this to me, and I was like, that's beautiful, is to see life unobstructed from reality. And if we're having an experience like that, we're not sitting with the person across from us. We're reliving a memory from something that happened with mom, dad, an ex, something like that. And because we're triggered, but we're not seeing reality of, oh wait, this is a different person. Like all of those first 4 relationships cheated on me. I could just label all women as cheaters and be like traumatized about it. I had enough discernment to go, those were individuals and I own my shit. It could be different for somebody else and with somebody else, and I could create different within myself. Anyway.
What does that look like for you? So you recognized you're the common denominator with the various women that cheated, and you said before, like, they're not cheating women. It's not like that's who they are. What did you find that you needed to shift about yourself, or what were the practices? What were the things?
In my earlier days, I tried to stop doing things. Now I try to start doing things. So instead of stopping people pleasing, or stopping reacting, or stopping, put my dick in what I shouldn't put my dick in, for lack of better terms, I started saying, well, what would be healthy? What do I want? Not what your ego wants. What does my heart want? What are my deeper core truths? And when I started that, I didn't know, because I lived for other people. I lived trying to please everybody else. I didn't know what would make me happy. And that's why I'm in the season right now where I'm, fire spinning and got a car that I'm like doing a project on, and like so many fun things. I'm getting a saxophone. I'm just trying shit out because I didn't give it to myself. I was in the personal development space, and it was just hustle, grind. So I sold my Xbox and anything that made me happy, art supplies, got rid of them to work because I wanted to be successful. So I shut down play.
Now, do you think that something that I say is like, you can't skip steps? Do you think that was a step you could have skipped?
Probably.
Or was that a necessary thing?
Probably. I think I had suffered a lot unnecessarily. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Now, if someone is in that place right now where they're thinking about eliminating things from their life so that they can be more productive or go after some bigger goal, and like talking to you back then, if you say you could have skipped that part of that step, what would you say to that person now about not cutting out their play?
Play is what makes you fulfilled. And to go on the topic of the podcast, when you're fulfilled, it all happens. I wasn't fulfilled and was looking for fulfillment in women or work, right? And so that's why it never worked out. Even with work, I still was able to make the money to pay the bills, but I was unfulfilled inside. And it was constantly hard, and I felt like I was pushing against a wall to get ahead in business. And now it's so easy and free, and things are coming to me, and I'm like, what changed? Well, I just started owning my yeses and nos and following what's going to light me up. I also did a lot of work on my physical body with my energy, reposturing things, healing my gut, eating clean, doing detoxes, all that stuff. And that's why I talk so much about it. Because I know, I had the near-death experience, and that opened my eyes to the body-centric stuff from a different.
You've got to tell that
from
story.
a different lens.
Let's
do it because, I was in fitness, and so it was all about performance, which there's a difference between performance and health. So
what? No.
Yeah, marketing would say otherwise. Anyway, yeah, you wanted me to tell my near-death story. So, geez,
that was a crazy story.
So I'm living in Santa Monica, living my LA life. Business is thriving. I'm making a name for myself as the heart guy, changing lives. It's amazing. That was like one of the peaks of my life, I would say. And in that, I'm like, I did this live event for the first time. Never done my own event before. It was like a 12-hour immersive experience. Called Unlock Love, and it's all about like healing codependency and self-love and healing relational trauma. I just put this shit together and did it, and like 35 people showed, and it was amazing. And then all over my Instagram, people are like, you got to come to this city, you got to do it here, you got to do it there. So I was like, okay, bet. So I created a tour: Dallas, LA, Toronto, Miami, back-to-back weekends, and it was going to be in like 3 months, whatever. And I just in my that's how I do things. I shoot in the name. And so I was like, yep, cool, we're in. And then I got sidetracked by a situationship that didn't turn out. And I woke up from that and I'm like, this thing is in a month and I haven't done any promotion. I start freaking out and I'm like, okay, there's a ticket sold in every city. I gotta show up. Like I was thinking, do I just pull the cord and not do it? I'm like, something in me is saying to go. All right, I'm gonna do this thing.
Okay, so quick check in there. You said something in me was saying to do it. That's because you've done all this work around being in your heart and knowing what the feeling is of something is like incoherence with your soul versus I logically want to do a thing.
Right.
And those are different.
Right.
What is the feeling? Like, how would we know for someone who hasn't experienced a lot of that?
Mm-hmm. You're asking me how to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
You're asking me, what does golden hour look like? It's different for everybody, and it's different in different times. For me,
so it's not a question. It won't be a question.
It's a calm knowing. God or your love speaks in whispers and a calm, certain knowing. It's just like, you know. And when we're coming from our trauma or our heart, but I can't because of this, and that's going to be a lot. And I don't know if I can do that. And I'm enoughness, and you know what to do. And that was kind of the thing. I was like, this is for my growth, but holy shit, that's scary. It'd be much easier to just pull the plug and cancel everything. And I think it was, I was in that season of life where I wanted adventure. So it was like, this is going to be fun. How the fuck am I going to pull this off? I didn't have a syntax, didn't have a flow of anything, didn't do any marketing, like get everything ready in a month for an entire tour. Let's fucking go. Well, I did. And I borrowed a shit ton of money in the process. Shout out to my friends because they showed up and crewed or did things for free or lent me money and did all that or picked me up from the airport, like all the things. Stayed at their house because I didn't have the money. I wasn't really I was doing well, but I was spending it all. So I didn't have much of a margin to work with or a budget. I remember halfway through it, the events were going well, but they weren't converting. People weren't, buying the course at the end and stuff. My business mentor at the time, who I hired because I wanted to do that and have it be successful, taught me a lot about running events and stage presence and how to do all of that. But I assumed that he was going to help with marketing as well, and he didn't. So I kind of shot myself in the foot because I paid him $30,000. Well, on contract. No money transfer happened. It was like, oh yeah, you'll do this event, you'll do this tour, you'll make the money back, and then I pay him a small chunk of it because I'll make money, and it didn't add it up. But it didn't happen. I'm in the airport going to Toronto with no money in my account and my negative in my bank, and I can't swipe for another anything. I'm going to get on this plane. My friend's going to pick me up and I'm going to fucking figure it out. He's saying, don't get on that plane. Cancel everything. I was like, no, fuck you. I literally told him. I was literally what I said.
The mentor said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I said, he was thinking numbers and logic and he needed to get paid, right? And I'm like, no, I'm going to honor my word. I said I was going to do it. I'm going to fucking do it. And I did. And I come back from the whole tour on a high, man. Like, sure, the finances were in the shitter, but like, I had such an amazing time. So many people changed their lives, and you could see it, and like hearing from them afterwards, and like people rekindling their relationships, and it was insane. I was like, yeah, more of this. I come back to an eviction notice on my door of $7,000 or quit in 3 days. That coach threatening to sue me because I was late on a payment, and I'm falling out with a friend because I owed them money, and I just cracked inside and went out to the beach and bawled my eyes out. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get this money. I'm going to lose my fucking apartment. What have I done? And I'm just, shaming myself. Like, what did you do? I added it up and I was over $110,000 in debt. And I was like, how the fuck did this happen? Again, calm whisper. You know what to do. I was like, all right. I'm Kevin fucking Crenshaw. I'm going to pull this shit together. I'm going to make it happen. Sure enough, I did. $7,000 in 3 days or I get evicted. Boom, did that. $2,000 in 2 days or this guy's going to sue me. Boom, did that. For 3 months, there was a pressing deadline with a certain amount of money and I made it happen.
Wow.
And I paid off about 90% of all that debt to the point where, the people I did owe debt to were like, pay me back whenever you can, no rush.
What was the weirdest thing that you had to do in those 3 months?
I developed an insane caffeine addiction.
Oh, like how much were we talking?
1,000 milligrams a day.
That's like 10 cups of coffee.
Like 3 Bang energy drinks a day.
Oh, God.
And barely eating.
Were you sleeping? A bit?
I mean, all I was doing was working. I was pulling easy 16, 17-hour days.
And was that a combination of one-on-one clients?
That was servicing clients, getting new clients, talking to a team to help, things happen. I just went manic on what worked. And
wow.
It definitely leveled me up. In a business sense, I was still, my adrenal, when I stopped and I was like, oh shit, I can relax. My adrenals were shot. My body was a wreck. I was pale. I lost a shit ton of weight. And my friends were like, I'm concerned about you. So I do this adrenal reset and everything. Now, mind you, this whole year I started playing with psychedelics for the first time. I was goody two shoes in school, didn't do anything. So this was like that year, this 2019. Sat with Wachuma a few times, did mushrooms microdosing here and there, MDMA microdosing here and there for, ceremonious reasons.
So a lot of like good experiences
totally
leading up to this.
Totally, nothing wrong.
A lot of
I sit and
confidence.
Exactly, and a mentor of mine at the time was like, "Hey, you want to do a private ceremony in Joshua Tree in December?" I'm like, "Yeah, that seems good. Why not?" Reset, cool. Well, it was powdered, not normal San Pedro, and she didn't know that it expanded in liquid. I didn't know any of this. It was out of integrity, and the woman didn't know what she was doing, in my experience. I had enough Wachuma for probably about 30 people. I had probably 5 heaping tablespoons in nectar juice that we bought. And it had sugar in it and stuff like that. So I had some, not feeling anything. 30 minutes later, some more, not feeling anything. 30 minutes later, some more, and then it hits me. I'm moving, I'm grooving, and all of a sudden, I start tweaking. I start freaking out. It's not good. I'm having really dark thoughts about like blood and all that like crazy stuff. And she's like, Kevin, you're freaking me out. I wasn't conscious. I started going, for anybody who's been on a bad trip, you start time jumping and you're like, what? I'm not even fucking here. And now I'm in like Lumeria, and then I'm in the 1980s, and now I'm here. And they're like, right? And all my stomach's expanding. Now I hadn't had a gag reflex, and I hadn't thrown up since I was 2. It starts getting here, and she's like, Kevin, I need you to throw up. Kevin, I need you to throw up. Kevin, I need you to throw up. So I remember that. And I finally allowed myself to throw up, and I threw up 3 giant salad bowls worth of like rainbow colored shit. I'm completely depleted and exhausted, still fucking in it. And I lay down and she puts her hand on my neck and I start to see a tunnel. And I didn't know this about near-death experiences until after, but you see the tunnel that everybody talks about. And I'm going into that and I'm relaxing and it feels good and you want to go into it. And I'm like, I almost have this soft knowing, if I let go, I'm going to die. As I become aware of that, I have another visual of a knife going in the back of my head. And it's like this, and I'm like, I'm dying. She's murdering me right now.
To clarify, you saw yourself being stabbed like from a third person
No,
perspective?
it was like eyes were closed and it was just a visual of a knife and I felt it in my back, in the back of my neck. And I'm like, there's pressure. I'm like, she's stabbing me. And I'm like, how am I thinking right now? Like, freaking out. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I jolt up and like shove her away. And I'm like, what the fuck? And she's like, whoa, it's just me. And that whole experience ties into something later. But then, I didn't go to sleep for 3 days because I was scared my heart was going to stop beating. I couldn't focus my eyes. Started hearing voices, not taking care of myself, this total psychosis.
Were you in the desert for 3 days?
No.
Oh,
she drove me back and then it was like, are you okay? And I'm like, I think so. And she left and I'm like by myself in those 3 days. It was tough. And like I said, just really scattered. And I knew enough to know that I wasn't well. And I was like, I need a perspective shift because I used to work for Tony Robbins, crewing his events for a few years. And so I knew a lot of the mindset strategy stuff. And I'm like, perspective. I'm like, that's not, it's scary. So I took myself to a graveyard and walked around in a graveyard for about 3 hours and bawled my eyes out. And I was like, all this shit that I'm worried about, what this person thinks, or the finances and the money, the shit that that's consumed me with the money, doesn't fucking matter. I'm alive. And I wrote down in my journal, breathe for those who can't. I could have fucking died. I had to brush up against death and I'm over here still stressed. Fuck you, Kevin. I love you, but like, dude. And that was the thing that really kickstarted me in a better headspace to get out of all of that. And then I developed crazy IBS and gut problems because of all the, things that happened. And that led me down a path. 2020 happened. I left Santa Monica, went to Seattle. And so then I dealt with 2 years of gut problems and everything.
I'm curious, after that experience, how did that change I'm assuming it had a profound effect on your one-on-one sessions with people?
My work, yeah. So I had a mentor of mine, Will Resin, who saved my life. I was already working with him. Somehow or another, we got connected.
Is he a coach or?
He's a mentor, with somatics. And so he specializes in working with trauma. And if it wasn't for him and that work, I would be lost. He helped me understand the nervous system and trauma and healing that, but also finding wholeness in myself and self-awareness, not just what I'm thinking about, but what I'm feeling. And he really guided me through that whole process. I took his trauma and somatics course, which helps coaches work with clients because everybody has trauma. And so that changed how I relate to humans. It changed how I human, not just in my work. And then I started diving deep about the lymphatic system, which isn't really talked about or touched on much, but is a big factor in things. The digestive system, because I had all my gut problems. And I start going down all this scientific research around the body. And I called myself the heart guy before, but then I actually started studying the anatomical heart and the Heart Math Institute and their research about things. And so I dove into biohacking, just literally humaning. I went crazy, manic, workaholic, overachiever to finding myself humaning, doing the laundry, chilling, hanging out with friends, not working. I found myself in a home. There's 2 kids there, love them like my own, playing with children, and it was therapy for me to just take a breather and regulate my system for a while. And so now reapproaching things, I'm still the heart guy, And the Heart Gang used to be my coaching community. You asked me what the Heart Gang was earlier. It's morphing into a company. It's morphing into a movement. It's morphing into something way bigger than just me. And it's all of the Heart Gang stuff. I'm going to be tying in what I learned through experience. Experiences traumatize us and experiences heal us. You don't need more knowledge. If you want knowledge about something, get a book or go on Instagram. Like, people are tired of the same old. And experience is what's going to make a difference in the patterning in your form, as my mentor Will likes to call it, your biology. If you change the patterning, you can change the person. You change the outcome things. So it's really shifted a lot to experiential type things. And the experiences don't always have to be big and cathartic like the spiritual community loves. Just calling a spade a spade.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a
wailing, crying, like shaking, crazy experiences. You can process grief with a single tear. You can process rage by just, oh, okay, that's all it was there. You don't have to make a show of it. And most, healing happens in safety. In a sense of belonging, we get to have a new experience of love, a new experience of relating to others, a new experience of self. When we're in a connection for the first time, when we're not judged and we're used to judgment constantly, it's a new experience. Wait a second, what? So if you're not having the experience of love that you want or of friendship that you want, unfamiliar and new is the biggest green flag. If it feels familiar, you're running your pattern. And it's hard to see it when you're in it. So, for me recently, like being in connections with women and I'm not judged or it's like, oh, you have that fault? Okay. And it's not like this big triggering guard up thing. Oh, interesting.
I have so many questions. I want to keep on this rant because I'm loving where this is going. But just an interruption question is,
okay,
feeling into this answer, because I know you're going to be able to do this easily. And I know you can't logically explain this, but I feel like you'll channel explain this for me.
Okay.
The difference in these women that are showing up for you, that are okay with your flaws, is that because they are educated and are doing work on themselves? Is that because you have changed? Is it some combination?
I think it's a combination. It takes two to tango. So, I changed. I started just owning it versus having shame around it. Yeah, of course they're well educated around it all. The best way I could explain it, dude, is the personal development community and the spiritual community are a fucking bubble. I've had a friend of mine, I'm not going to say her name, was traumatized by the personal development community. And a lot of people are. And she was like, she just got out of the bubble. I actually know two women now that I think of it. Got out of the bubble and just started, they called it, I'm just having normal people friends that aren't running a fucking business or making money or doing the healing work all the fucking time, that are like, somebody works at a gas station or somebody that does this other thing, or like a skater or like a crypto person. And that's been healing for them. So what I'm saying is it's the non-obsession of it all, I guess. A little bit more allowing. I don't know. I've changed. And, now that I'm mentioning my part, I was going to say in my story earlier, I went from manic ownership, where I'm owning everything and you're feeling that so I can do something to change it, to radical ownership and also awareness of what's mine and what's not.
I need examples, please. So that was actually one of the other questions I was forming, which was like, how do you know what you should own versus what you should change about yourself?
Own your shit, but don't take any shit. So own your shit, see what happens. Own your shit, see what happens. Own your shit, see what happens. They're not changing. Okay, bye.
So basically own yours, but if they can't own theirs, or what do you,
There's not a hard rule on this. I can't give an answer to somebody of this is when you leave, or this is when you got to keep staying because they're on the cusp of it. Like, You'll know. It's in your soul, but it's self-awareness. And I had the self-awareness. I thought I had the self-awareness. I'm the fucking heart guy, and I'm out here, like I said, up until December, being a fucking people pleaser and a codependent patterns running again and all this stuff. And I wasn't fully seeing it because I wasn't sitting with myself. I stopped all my morning practices. I stopped the self-awareness shit. I just started oh yeah, I don't need all that stuff. Let me just run and enjoy life. And I needed it, and I'm grateful for it, but I wouldn't do it again. Does that answer your question? It's kind of
yeah. So it's really like having that practice of being able to listen to your soul, your heart. Well, and then when it does have that calm knowing that you talked about, it can be really scary sometimes you logically disagree with it, but it knows.
Your ego wants a thing or a person or a relationship. Sometimes you just gotta listen to your heart and go, that's not the fucking direction. That's not the one. And I was headstrong fucking ignoring it.
And you said you can't really give like a hard and fast. Is there a difference between, because I think in my past I've felt at times like there's like that body knowing of a thing that you described, and then there's also been like this person is doing this one giant red flag that I've seen many times, and my body is like, absolutely no, please run away from this person. Where they feel the same. Those two things feel the same.
Definitely. This is where it's important to heal your trauma, and to work with somebody who understands how to work with trauma, not just what trauma is. Big, massive difference. Because when you're doing that, you're seeing life unobstructed. You're able to see the individual and see it for what it is. Oh, I have this past experience with this, but this is a different person. And you can stay instead of run, for example. You won't project your experience onto another.
So if you do,
and you also will have a good picker, because you'll be like, oh, wait a second, I've seen this before. Cool. Like, let's not just go into that. You'll orient yourself accordingly, and just be friends with the person or distance yourself or whatever. There's I in the early days of being the heart guy, I started to be a dating coach. I'm like, I'm not a fucking pickup artist, because a lot of the focus was on the other. And I'm more about the spiritual work, man. And so it's yours and looking inward and what feels good to you. And at the end of the day, my lesson recently has just been a deep level of truth and honesty with myself. I mean, it sounds weird, but like last night, I was going to go to a party, but I was like, no, I've got all this stuff to do tomorrow and I'm really tired. I was going back and forth, and I had a friend holding space for me, and I was like, I'm just tired, and I'm not admitting it to myself. And I want to go to this party because I don't want to disappoint my friend. And I just stated the facts of it all, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go home. Because I got clear. But we don't stop and sit with that. We're trying to logically think about it all, but just being honest about those types of things. And even if it's not the answer we want, it's what's true. I used to have a definition of love, that love is truth. It's so true a lot of the times, I feel. It's just a high form of truth. Because there's other forms of truth that aren't a deeper, like my codependent self had a truth that he loved doing the codependent dance. I really didn't. But I would tell other people, yeah, it's great, everything's fine. I was lying to myself. And when we lie to ourselves, we automatically lie to other people. But I was lying to this guy first, and unintentionally lying to other people and hurting other people. And I saw it. And when I woke up to this in December, I just saw all of my experiences with women. Codependency is fucking manipulative. You're changing who you are so you can be with somebody. You're pleasing them and putting on a mask of what they want instead of just being yourself. It's masked as love. I love you so much, so I'm going to change. And man, I'm just in the season where I'm like, I'm just going to own who the fuck I am and what I want to do, and honor my desires. If I have a dark thought or like some thing that I want to do, I'm just going to like own myself and do it. And not in like, without hurting people. Obviously, there's morals that come in, but owning your darker thoughts. and owning all sides of yourself. You know, I said this quote the other day, there's not a demon to slay. There's just an exiled part of you to love. The exiled part of you doesn't feel seen, appreciated, heard. Oh my God, I'm alone. And so it becomes a demon. We think we need to kill the demon. And when you kill the demon wins, because now you've killed a side of yourself permanently. Well, I don't think anything's permanent, but you know.
Yeah, someday you're going to have to find that thing.
Revive it. So, yeah.
Wow.
The side of you that's scared, the side of you that is a lying asshole, the side of you that is an overthinker, the things that get in your way, that are your limits. What if you were to just love it all and be okay with what is? And ironically, when you're okay with what is, it all starts changing. But the people, and I've had this experience, that constantly try to change it and control all of those things stay stuck.
Yes. Can we do another personal example on this one? I mean, it depends on what you're comfortable with. Like, I can do it or you can do it.
Yeah.
But like, what is one of those demons for you that you've had to love, and how does that change the way it shows up?
Lying to myself.
Okay. So there's a part of you that
It's like
avoided things and avoided truths. And at
to
some
get
point
what I wanted.
in your past, you were like, yeah, I'm just going to stuff that thing down and never lie again or something, right? Like, what was
that was why I went to I'm going to honor my word and do this event, is because I hadn't before. And so it became a demon in a way, because it put me at $110,000 in debt. And then also on the flip side.
Oh, so you were worried about being a liar. So worried that you were like, there's no way I can lie.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to do whatever I said I was going to do. Wow. Okay.
And your truth can change. Promising forever, for example. And I think it's Alice in Wonderland quote that sometimes forever is only a second or a moment. I forgot the quote, but you know.
So then that was the extreme against the demon part, right? Now, between now or then and now, how have you like brought that back in a healthy way?
Having compassion for the side of me that was lying, seeing that I was just scared and wanted validation and love and acceptance. It was a toxic way to get it, but seeing that hurt little boy under there, and then starting to express my deeper truths. And because before it was, I'm so scared that I'm scared, so I'm going to honor my word. I'm going to honor what I said, even if I said it 10 years ago, right? Because I don't want to be made to be a liar. Instead of now, I'm not worried about what I'm saying with other people. I know it can change. I'm going to be a shit ton more mindful, that's for sure, of how I word things and what I say. It's good. It's the inner game, dude. I'm like, oh, I really do want this thing. Let me say it instead of being scared to say it. You know, like, again, it could be a romantic partnership, right? Like, I really love you. Being the first to say that. Or, I don't think this is going in the right direction. Or it's just not saying anything. Like, just being forefront and honest. Or, I like the way I feel around this person. Or, I don't like the way I feel around this person. Or, this work really lights me up. Or, man, this is shitty. Why am I doing this? And being honest with it. Because before, I would twist it. I would reframe it. The shitty work was, oh, you just got to push through, grind, hustle. Like, I had that weird, thing that men, I think, go through around pushing. It's just a part of the grind. No, you're out of alignment, dude.
Yeah.
For me, I was like, yeah. Does that answer your question? And
yes.
Kind of...
I've got two more like big things that are coming up now.
Okay.
One of them is, let's say you were in the culturescape, in that unconscious, like it's a woman who's watching and she keeps going after toxic men and trying to change them. And maybe sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't, but she's still looking, or divorced and looking again, right? Something like that. Or you're a man who is maybe got some like demons, right? And you're looking for a woman who can just accept those and you're like, hey, I'm conscious that they are there, and you're in the culturescape of thinking the woman should just try to save you and be accepting, and there's a harmony between both of these things, right?
Yeah.
And then you realize that you're in that culturescape and you're recreating this thing again and again, and then you go and you find someone who is not that, and you find yourself not as attracted.
Oh, yeah.
Really common,
Yeah,
right?
very common.
What do we do, Kevin?
So because you have a distorted view of danger and a distorted attraction mechanism in your body, where I call it a bandaholics. And I have
a bandaholics?
Yeah, you're addicted to abandonment. The thrill, the rush, the oh my God, I'm alive. Wow, I'm so passionate. Like this is such a crazy connection. It's danger, and your body knows that rush this is not safe. This is dangerous by every means. Oh my God, I love you. And then you run the same pattern, or it ends up the same way, and whatever, versus something that's different. Wait a second, this feels different. This is easy. There's not that crazy rush, but I'm in a different garden. I'm in a different field. This is a different game. And maybe it doesn't have that erotic rush, passionate thing that people would associate with love, but this is different. This feels safe. I want to be safe in love. I don't want to be mad in love. And when I changed that, I started to be able to see it. I started to appreciate it. Because before it'd be like, oh yeah, there's just no chemistry. You're a cool friend. Right? And you just blind to it because the distorted view of love. Our first experiences with, it was unsafe environment growing up or with an ex, and then the pattern changes to, being unsafe in those relationships, or that arguing is a normal thing, or that tension that's created is a normal thing, and you blow it off with sex or whatever. But creating tension constantly in a connection with somebody else, it doesn't have to be that way. And I call it a bandaholics because it's a chemical addiction. It's not necessarily in the mind. You get addicted to the rush of adrenaline and to that tense feeling in your body, and the hormones that are released, the chemicals that are released, the endorphins that are released in that tension of a fight, for example, or whatever. And then if you reward yourself with make-up sex constantly, you're now rewarding that behavior. And so you're going to seek it out, and you're going to put a wall up or poke at the other person for no reason other than to get that reaction so you can get a hit.
Okay, so step one to healing that is awareness.
Oh, step one healing anything is awareness. Right. But yeah, awareness, and you gotta fast. You gotta fast. How do you quit a sugar addiction? You stop sugar. How do you quit a bandaholics addiction? You stop dating for a second. Or you create some space from that relationship that you're in to literally purge the chemicals out of your body and that loop to reapproach it. And that's really fucking hard to do alone. Healing happens in safe containers, safe like relationships. Yeah, exactly. So, I have this saying in the Heart Gang that sure, you can do healing by yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. And actually, you can't do it all alone. Self-healing only goes so far. You have to eventually come out of your room that you journaled and cried in and meditated in and get in a relationship again.
So when you do get into that safe relationship and you are noticing that, how do you communicate that with the person?
Being honest with yourself and saying, wow, this is weird, or I'm this is my pattern and I want to not do that, and I like you, and it's bringing up all this emotions, and it's even scary for me to say this because we're in the beginning stages of this, but like, this is what it is. People want real. People want vulnerable and honesty. And that's the tagline for Heart Gang, real, raw, and honest. And ironically, I wasn't being that until recently. And that's the fucking truth. And we want other people to be vulnerable. We want other people to be honest with us. If you really want that, give it first. That's the courageous part, where it's courageous to live with an open heart. To have your heart wide open is to be vulnerable first.
How beautiful would it be if you were like trying to beat each other that moment in relationship?
Yeah.
Like both of you were like, wait, I really got to tell you.
I know, no, me first. But seriously, to be the first one to express the truth, to share your feelings, it's going to be a sorting mechanism. Certain people can't meet you there because they haven't gone there within themselves. So they'll fall from your life. And, it doesn't mean that the relationship failed or that the friendship failed or the dating connection failed. It's sometimes you're just not compatible. I had an ex recently, past few years, where it was just like, man, I love you and you love me, but this is not compatible. Like, this just doesn't click, and we're trying to make it work, and it's like, I love you, but we're not compatible. It can be that. It doesn't have to be an evil person and a good person and fuck you for this and you're a bad, like, where is all that drama coming from? Sometimes you're just not compatible, and you can move on in growth and in health and to part ways, So
I'm going to ask you a pretty, I can imagine, commonly asked question in your communities and clients and things.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see and hear your response.
Okay.
And, like, let's say that one of the most common exercises for calling in like a future partner is to write about them and to talk about like, what they're like and their traits and various experiences. And I know it doesn't have to be like completely accurate, but I know the exercise of doing it can be really valuable just to put on paper like manifesting any sort of goal or being able to see it and activate the, the RAS and seeing what you want really and getting clear on what you want. And then we also just talked about like chemistry, right? And knowing like, so good chemistry is like the deep knowing of like, this person is a beautiful person and I love this person. And maybe the bad chemistry or the volatile chemistry is like, oh, I see that this person is going to trigger like an addiction loop to this intensity that I'm used to, right? It doesn't have to be yelling or fighting, right? It could be other things too, like someone who's withdrawn or their heart is closed or they don't like commitment or anything that could be volatile, right? In relation, not the thing that you wrote down.
Right.
So what, in your opinion, are the most valuable things to attempt to call in when you do exercises like that versus the things that maybe are not as healthy?
How about what people wouldn't write down, which is, how do I feel around this person? That's one of the biggest ones that has worked for people that you don't usually think about. Oh, they're this tall, they get this job, they got this type of relationship with their family, they're making this much money, they're doing this thing, they love this, they feel this, they. How do you feel around this person? Another thing is like, how does this person talk about you behind your back? Do they praise you, right? Or do they not talk about you at all? Common viewpoints. What's their relationship with money and their viewpoints with it? What's their relationship with kids and wanting kids or not? And parenting, like, go into it. What's their parenting style? What are their views on things? Really dig in. And this is hard to do because there's what you want and then there's what you need. So write it down and let it go and be open to receiving anything. When I did goal setting for 2022, I wrote down a few words. Unfathomable. I was like, I want something. I could sit down here and goal set and write down what I want, but I want it to be completely incomprehensible right now to me. I couldn't fucking think. It's not in the realm of consciousness for me in January 1st, 2022, I would not be able to fathom or create it. I couldn't write it down. It's going to be that good. And so far, it's been happening. So maybe writing that down. But again, like, write the feelings. How are you going to feel? The I love you translates to I love the way that I feel about myself when I'm with you. Really, when you boil it down.
Yes.
And so it's that. How are you going to feel? What's the energy and the essence of your relationship? Not just the constructs and the words and the labels and the mindset stuff. The heart works on emotion. So what are the key emotions that are in your relationship and in your connection? And then, this is what I do in my courses with people. Who do you have to become in order to manifest this person and keep this person and be attractive to this person? Oh shit, there's your mirror. There's the work. Now get to work on it. Whether you're with the partner now, or you're looking to manifest and call somebody in, doing this exercise and then flipping every question onto yourself. It's a tough pill to swallow, but that's like, okay, there's my roadmap, if you will, for the inner work to manifest this person. Now let me forget about that list and stop going out there like it's a game of hide and seek and work on myself and trust that they'll come to me or that the stars will align at the right time.
And then when you're faced with an opportunity and you do see someone, have the courage to do something about it.
Yeah. And you do see, wait, this is familiar. I wrote about this a few months ago. Oh shit. Yeah.
At what point, if ever, do you share that with them in the relationship?
I've had people, I have multiple people manifest their partners, like dozens of people manifest their partners through my course. We do this exercise in week 2, and they've told.
Which course is this one?
True Love Accelerator.
Okay.
And they have shared pretty instantaneously, and they've shared, waited a few months, but yeah.
Epic.
Yeah, they know pretty early on. Yeah.
You said essentially, and I know this to be true, and I can feel that deep inner knowing that for people to really get into this space and really get like the healing in, they have to be safe. A lot of the times, the people we are surrounded by don't necessarily have that same safety. Like our family, maybe some of our close friends, right? We can't be safe around them. So we seek that out in partners, right? And we play this like artificial safe space around them where it's not safe at all. Or we try to find communities like the Heart Gang, right? To be safe. So ultimately, right, I feel like having those safe spaces is very important, to have those like little corners we can go to be really safe. So for me, that might be like the Avengers group that I run, where I'm like, you just can say everything, and they've known you through so many things and over so many years and so many amazing places, and you can just unload.
Yeah.
And
there's no judgment. There's no judgment. Yeah.
Totally, right? Or at least to the best of our ability.
Right.
And it's always, when you get larger groups, it's tougher and tougher to create that safety. And the more you know each other, the more safe it can get. The more they are vulnerable, the safer they'll be for other people, right? What do you have to say about like our day-to-day life and creating safety there? So I know for sure, number one is we need to be safety for others and the people around us. But your family is your family.
Yeah.
Your spouse is your spouse. So a lot of people who are watching this might be married or engaged or in a significant relationship already, and maybe their partner is not listening to this interview with the same context, nor may they even be interested in this at this moment, right? How do we start to push safety into our lives? What's our...
With other people?
Yeah, with the people that are currently in our lives.
You be a safe space for them. Ask yourself, are you a space... They're not safe for me, like I can't open up. Are you safe for them? Or are you judging them when they try to open up? Are they scared to open up because they're scared of judgment or whatever? Encourage it and really check yourself not to judge and to be a safe space.
How do we encourage it? What do we do?
I'm noticing you have feelings about that. Is it okay if you talk about it? I just want to hold space for you. I'm not going to try to solve it. I'm not going to judge you. Like I desire to be close to you, and I'm feeling distant. And I feel like if you could you at least try to lean in and trust me, because I want to get close to you. And at that point, it's not up to you, and there's nothing you can do, because it takes two to tango. You can't save the beast. It's up to him if he wants to change or not. So there's ways that you can. It's energy though, right? It's all energy, and especially as someone who's been unsafe their whole life or been in rougher communities, it's going to be really hard to open up. And consistency, but when you're safe and expressing yourself, people are going to be pulled to you, and then be like, you're going to be so vulnerable in yourself and free, it frees them up automatically. So not just creating safety, but now creating self-expression. You're automatically going to be, people are going to just get around you and tell you their life story, or like, oh my God, I'm dealing with this thing. You're not going to have to ask for it. It'll come second nature when you're fully self-expressed. And you might think that you're self-expressed now, as I used to. But there's levels. There's levels to it. For sure.
Beautiful. So then the note that I had earlier was, you said you've seen love stories happen in like every way imaginable.
Yeah.
So like, yes, crazy. Sometimes he is a toxic guy, and you do heal him and provide a safe space where now he doesn't necessarily have to be that, and he will learn that over time. And as a guy, you might have all these like flaws and things that you're like, hey, these are my demons. These are very real for me. They're there. Here's what I've done. They'll show up sometimes, and I apologize for that, you know, and the woman will be okay with that, and she will be open to that, and then, you know, she'll be a safe space for you, you'll be a safe space for her, right? And that can evolve. Are there any green flags we can look for that you've seen are like consistent across like subcultures? We'll just say like American culture, because I know every culture is going to have its own things, but maybe or Western culture at large. And I know that can get confusing because when you say like Spain and Brazil, those are super different.
Green flags, new and unfamiliar for yourself.
Okay,
number
so
one,
if
if your pattern is negative and you want to break it, new and unfamiliar. Non-judgment.
Like you notice
you open up and say something and it's not really judged too much. They don't run or freak out or
get triggered,
and maybe they meet you with curiosity instead of judgment. Maybe they might be, whoa, okay, but like they still question, they still stay. That's green flag. What are their connections like with other people? How do they talk about their exes? Are their exes always the bad person? I got news for you. It takes two to tango. Their own self-awareness. Are they owning their shit? Can they be humble? It's different for everybody, but those are definitely some of mine.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then when people fall in love with you and they want to learn so much more about all the stuff that you teach, the heart gang, they want to find these safe spaces, and they just want to be really immersed in this education and everything that you're talking about here, where can they go? How can they learn more? The Heart Guy on Instagram, heartgang.com. To join the Heart Gang, we've got a slew of things. We just talked mainly about love and relationships on the podcast today. But we talk so much more about like wealth and living your dharma and the physical body and optimizing for health. Because if you want to feel more love, you've got to feel more. And so the body has to be on point, right? And there's so many community events and things that we do in there to really give you that sense of belonging. Do you do live events everywhere, or is it just Austin?
We're starting. So we're starting to do live events everywhere. Right now it's just Austin. And like I said, this is very new, so I'm still like even crystallizing the identity of the Heart Gang. But it's for people, badasses with a big heart, people that have a big heart, that have a huge mission for the world, or really want to like work on themselves, to find a place where they will be safe and fully encouraged to self-express, where they build their self-awareness and self-expression. And we do it in a pretty gangster way. It's not vanilla at all, like a lot of the stuff that I see. So it's fun. We have fun in the work. And that makes it more accelerated, actually.
I have a quick side question. That's usually the last question I ask, but then a whole other thing.
Here we go. We keep going.
So you said, which I completely agree with. So like the Thrive Dojo, right? The whole mantra is strong body, clear mind, peaceful soul.
Ooh,
and those are the three things that kind of encapsulate what I consider a beautiful and fulfilling life.
Okay.
And Fulfillionaire kind of goes hand in hand with that, right? So today we talked a lot about, like we said, love and relationships. And then you said that the body is an important part of all of that. And then like dharma and your purpose and living on purpose is a big part of that. With the body, and I know you went through this huge journey, healing everything. What, if you had like three, like here's the three things that you did or that you tell people to do that really help them become what I call a vessel for inspiration.
Nice.
And as they do that, they can feel that coherence and that heart knowing more.
Yeah.
What would be the three?
Regulate your nervous system, clear and heal your gut, and build heart coherence. So nervous system regulation, understanding trauma, literally grounding and creating different patterning in your body that's working with triggers, etc. So that's a whole realm.
Which is kind of what we talked a little bit about.
Got on it, yeah.
Is there a book you'd recommend for that, or a specific influencer?
Again, this isn't something to learn; it's something to experience. So find a somatic experience practitioner that's SEP. They're certified in this. Somatic is a word thrown around right now a lot in the community. But find a somatic practitioner, get some table work done. You'll feel a fucking difference.
And that's SEP.
SEP, somatic experience practitioner. Then clearing and healing your gut. When I went through all the gut stuff, I realized I got depression. And I was like, wow, your gut health correlates to your mental health a lot. Like I can't just Tony Robbins this shit out of my way of bad gut health. I can't change my state when I'm fucking depressed and then my gut isn't producing dopamine or serotonin and I'm not digesting stuff and I'm constantly in pain. So that is, things like fasting, finding out what's best for you. Honestly, get your shit checked. Like go get blood work done, stool tests, all of that, because everybody's body's different. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, go vegan, do this one thing. But a fast, I know for sure for everybody.
24 hours, 36 hours.
Dark72.com is 72-hour fast.
Okay, dark72.com.
Ton of breath work, a ton of Vipassana meditations, and a ton of shadow work because there's like mini workshops every day. But dark72.com, free 3-day water fast. And then the heart coherence. So that is where, I sell stethoscopes in the Heart Gang. And it's to listen to the sound of your own heartbeat. So you can put your hand over your heart and feel your heart, and you can build heart-brain coherence that way. It's much easier when you have two senses online, feeling and hearing. And just 3 minutes of placing your awareness on the sound of your own heartbeat, you instantly regulate your nervous system. You're coming from a place of wholeness. You're developing a stronger sense with your intuition. So you mentioned, like, how do you know? Like, you'll build the intuitive knowing because you're connecting with the heart.
So it's a muscle that you can train.
It is. It's a relationship that you build. Heart Math Institute has done all the research on this. So y'all Google them, Heart Math Institute. And they've
Would you be open to doing like a 5-minute or a 10-minute recording here today?
Yeah.
That people can do?
Definitely. I mean, when it's recorded, especially something short like that, all I'm really going to say is stop, breathe, focus on your heart. Too much interference with a guided thing is a bad thing, actually.
Okay, so what you're saying is put on beautiful music?
Or not. And just listen to your heart. Place your awareness on your heartbeat and focus on the time in between each beat. And then shift your awareness to focus on do-do, 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 do-do. And the time in between it, and make that longer. And see if you can, just with your awareness, slow your heart rate down. And by the end of the 3 minutes, you'll be in a regulated nervous system. Your cells are healing themselves. You'll have better lymphatic system flow. This has been proven to reverse cancer, as crazy as that sounds, but the Heart Math did studies on it. That same state comes from when you're feeling grateful as well. So, but I've been homeless, sleeping on the street before, and didn't have money for food. I couldn't think of a fucking thing to be grateful for. I placed my awareness on my heart. And it's the same chemical reaction in your body. So heart-brain coherence is your heart and brain are communicating in sync. I mean, you had a heart in embryonic development before you have a brain. So your heart is a brain in that sense. It has that knowing.
The bulk of the electricity is generated there. So in the dojo, we talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in some of the tracks right now, I talk about like, feel the electricity from your brain to your spine to the muscle to the spine to the brain. The new tracks, I go a level deeper because it's just something people understand, where I go from the heart to the brain to the spine to the muscle.
Because that's actually how it's running.
To the brain to the heart.
Wow.
And everything in between. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of new stuff that we're working with right now that I haven't shown you yet. Okay. Because it always gets deeper.
Totally.
But essentially everything is generated from the heart in what we're discovering.
Yeah, it is. It is. And all the research points to that. So when you build a heart coherence, you build resiliency in your nervous system and in your state. So if something triggers you, you don't go into reaction. You're able to come from love instead of your hurt, or from your heart instead of your hurt, from love more of the time, and you'll live a more fulfilled life. When you're owning your truth, you'll sleep easy at night. When you've forgiven the people of the past, forgiven yourself, you'll sleep better at night. And to me, if you want a better life, sleep better. So that's real fulfillment, is laying your head down at night and not having any demons to fight, and not having any bullshit running around, and not having any anxiety about what if and this, that, the other. And even because you're detached from your physical possessions, they don't define you. You're detached from your relationships because they don't define you. You're solid in yourself. You know who the fuck you are. You know your truth, and you're living it. I can go to sleep now. And you wake up the next day living a life fully fulfilled.
I see you broken and beat, head pulled down over your eyes. Every part of you wants There